What's up, y'all, and welcome back. I'm Tyler, and today we're talking testimonies. This video is going to be a little different. So, two quick things. First, if you're a Christian, great. Stick around and you may learn a thing or two. On the other hand, if you're not religious, I encourage you to ask a Christian friend about their story. Ask them if they wouldn't mind sharing their testimony with you. This will help you understand them as a person, and it'll also build a stronger friendship between you guys. Alright, so let's get to it. As Christians, we all have different stories on how we came to know Christ and how our lives have been changed since. So today we're going to talk about your story and how to put it together and why it's so important that you share it. The first thing you need to know is that your story is also his story. It can be great or it can be ordinary. But at the end of the day, your story could be the key to unlock someone else's prison. It's also important to recognize that this opportunity isn't about yourself or exaggerating your story. It's about Jesus and how he changed your life. But if you're like me, you probably get nervous when it comes to topics like this and aren't sure exactly what to say or how to say it. So, after doing a little bit of research, here's my guide on how to prepare your testimony. And just a quick disclaimer, these steps may work perfect for you, or they may need adjusted to fit your story. Alright, so step 1, identify a theme to frame your story. What did your life revolve around before coming to know Christ, whether it be relationships, your reputation, or money? Step number 2, you need to paint a picture of what your life was like before Christ, but don't dwell or brag about the sins of the past. You only need to share the details that relate to your theme. Okay, so step number 3, how you came to Christ. You need to give the details of why and how you became a Christian. And this needs to be communicated in such a way that the person you're telling your story to can understand how they can become a Christian too. And even though the person you're talking to may not be ready for that step yet, God can still use your story to draw them to himself in the future. Okay, so step number 4, your life after Christ. Share some of the changes that God has made that relate to your theme. Focus on your character, your attitude, and your perspective, not just your behavior. But be realistic, life is far from perfect. But answer the question, what's different about your life now that you've given your life to Christ? Alright, the last step, step number 5, the closing. End with a statement that summarizes your story that connects back to your theme. You can even use one of your favorite Bible verses that connects with you. I got a little help to explain why sharing your testimony is so important. Check it out.
Hey everyone, my name's Dale Winton and I'm the lead pastor at the Naz in Grove City, Ohio. I want to talk to you for just a minute about the second greatest story ever told. Many people have heard that the greatest story ever told is the story of Jesus that we find in the Gospels, or even the story of the entire Bible and God's love for us. But quite often when we go to share that story, people put up walls or blocks. They don't want to hear about that. They already have things that maybe block them from wanting to hear about God or wanting to hear about the Bible. And so they'll have arguments on why the Bible's not real. And you end up in all sorts of crazy arguments with people rather than just being able to tell them about Jesus. What I have found is the second greatest story ever told is probably the best way to begin helping people really navigate and begin to understand Jesus a little more. The second greatest story ever told is your story. It's the story of how Christ has impacted your life, how he met you, how your life was before you met him, and then how your life has been changed and transformed because of a relationship with Jesus. When you begin to share what Christ has done in your life, people can't argue with that. They're not going to argue with you about what has taken place in your life. The other thing that happens is when you begin to share your own story, you're being a little bit more vulnerable. And sometimes that's tough and it's difficult, but as you begin to open up, what I have found is that other people then begin to open up because of your vulnerability. Perhaps they're open to not only hearing what you have to say, but they may begin to share what's been going on in their life, which gives you an opportunity to then share with them about how Christ loves them and how he cares about them. So your story actually becomes the gate and the threshold to being able to share the greatest story ever told. But it's a kind of a back door way in where you can share those things that God has done in your life. So when you go to talk to people, don't try to convert them immediately to Jesus. Don't try to share with them all those stories that you've heard in the Bible or read in the Bible. Perhaps the best place to start is where Christ has impacted your life. That can happen over a meal. That can happen sitting at a ball game. It just happens in everyday life once you begin to understand how to share your story. So this is an invitation for you to share your story. Take a moment, write down what your life was like before you met Christ. What happened immediately upon finding Christ, or what led to you coming to know Him in a personal way, and how your life has been changed since you've come to know Him. Take some time, write it down, work on it, share it with a few friends that you know are already believers, that they can listen and hear your story. As you do that, you'll gain more confidence, you'll get better at telling your story, you'll get more succinct at telling your story, and then you'll be able to share it with friends that you come in contact with who maybe haven't been open to that part of your life yet, or maybe you've not felt strong enough to share that story with them. It's my hope that as you do this, you'll gain confidence not only as you share with others, but you'll be able to see God work through you as you share His story with others through your story. God bless you as you take the steps to do this. Hope you just take the time to do it as quick as possible, because there are people out there who need to hear your story.
Alright, I'm going to end this video with a few tips to help you with your testimony. Tip number 1, be ready, whether it's at a grocery store with a stranger or a barbecue with some friends. One great way to be ready is to write out your story ahead of time. Ask yourself questions like, what did my life revolve around? Where did I get my security or my happiness from? And then ask yourself questions like, when or why did my perspective of Christ change? And lastly, ask yourself, what motivates you now? What do you live for? Tip number 2, everyone's on a spiritual journey. Don't let assumptions keep you from asking someone else about their story and also sharing yours. Tip number 3, ask permission. Before you tell someone about your journey, make sure that they're ready to hear it and they have the time to hear it. Tip number 4, be a good listener. Your story opens up a conversation that could help someone grow or even lead them to take huge steps towards Christ. Tip number 5, leave the results to God. No matter how someone responds to your story, let God do the work. And lastly, tip number 6, practice. If you'd like to share your story with me, I'd love to hear it. I want to start a series called Thames, or This Is My Story. Basically a place where your story can be captured and shared with people across the world. And years from now, you'll be able to look back at that video and see how far you've come. So please, if you're willing to share your story, I'm willing to listen. Send me a message or drop a comment below. Alright guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Peace.